point that as we're talking, if anyone does have any questions about what we're talking about, we will do our best to answer them as we go. And if we do miss anybody, we will reach out through email or phone afterwards too. So welcome to our evening webinar. This is the very first webinar between two of the coolest organizations in the world. My name is Ben Welbourn. I'm the Director of Outreach and Recruitment at Winterline Global Education.
And I'm Lillian Kivel. I'm part of the North American Outreach team, and I travel to the Midwest and the East Coast of the US to find really awesome, exciting students that want to go to the university of the future.
Absolutely. So we are here to talk about how to make travel your education after high school. And we have a question for Lillian.
To kick us off, I think it's interesting to just get a sense of where we are as a global society in terms of development and changing times. So this question, when I first heard it, it gave me a lot to think about. And so I'd love if you could, type into the chat what you think maybe the most common job in America is currently. Ben already knows the answer, but when he first guessed, he was not correct. So there are no silly guesses. Everything is good. I hear everything. Engineer. Ooh, very good guess.
Good guess. There's a lot of different types of engineers.
Yeah, it's a nice big category. Business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of different people working in business. Okay, one more. What do we think? Oh, great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
Yeah. I thought it was sales at one point too.
Yeah, I often hear teachers, and then I also sometimes hear nurses, which I always think is really interesting, and I kind of forget about the healthcare profession, but lots of people employed in that industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we are all wrong. Currently, the most common job in the U.S. is actually being a truck driver, which this lovely map kind of shows that in some places, being a business, kind of a retail clerk, being a teacher, being a nurse are more popular, but as a country on whole, truck driving reigns supreme and is the largest employer of people. Has anyone heard of a self-driving car? I think we might have a picture of one. Yeah. So if you haven't seen a self-driving car, you should come visit me in warmer California, where Uber just announced that starting yesterday, I think it was, at any time the car you request for an Uber may be a self-driving car. And it'll have like a notification. You can opt out of it if you're nervous by it, but the self-driving cars that at least Ben and I grew up thinking might someday be a possibility have very much arrived. And I have had friends get driven to the airport in them, have had, parents picked up in them. So they're out there, which means obviously truck driving is likely to not be there for that much longer. And as just one example, which this larger data point kind of presents you, that 80% of the jobs that you will have don't yet exist. So they're not slight tweaks on different types of engineering or kind of starting new businesses. That the whole kind of space, the things that you'll be asked to do, your kind of day in and day out activities will be entirely different, which also means that what employers are looking for is a very different set of skills than most schools and most kind of post-high school experiences are designed for. It's no longer about kind of memorizing something or just getting to know one particular place. It's really about being able to think on your feet, to communicate with people from lots of different backgrounds, to think creatively and outside the box, to be able to evaluate someone else's emotional stance and how to adapt what you're doing to make them more comfortable, to communicate more effectively with them. And I'm really excited because I think that both Winterline and Minerva have really been designed knowing that the world is changing quickly and knowing that what students are looking for both in their immediate experiences, but what they're also looking for to do long-term is changing quickly, and thus what they're doing to be prepared for those things should change as well. And I'm gonna let Ben kick it off because Winterline could be an immediate step right after high school, and then we'll talk a little bit about Minerva, which could be a step after Winterline.
You bet. Yeah, Lily and I were both really excited about doing this together because we do see this as a real progression to go from high school to really intentionally diving into what you want to do next, what you're good at, what you could be good at, and what you want to do. So even before a Minerva experience, Winterline really has a lot of different options, but we really were founded on the idea that there are basic areas that the education system in general is really not addressing, and back on skills, I mean, that's a huge part of it. So in schools all over the world, really, things like personal finance or public speaking or just how to look someone in the eyes when you're talking to them are skills that are really not taught in school. And if I could see you, I would look you in the eye. But we really are trying to show everybody that they do indeed love learning, and trying to show them the way in which they like to learn and the topics that they should and would want to cover. So we started out strictly as a gap year organization, which is a year you take typically before going into college. Some students do it halfway through college or even after college and before they enter the workforce. But it's really an intentional time to dive into your interests and see what you want to pursue. So we started with our 9-month global skills program, which goes to 10 different countries across 9 months, and students learn 100 different skills. And it really is a progression. It starts out in the first trimester, you are in the United States and Costa Rica and Panama, and you start out by really getting your feet under you and confidence around physical skills. So you get certified in wilderness first aid, you get scuba certified, so you're comfortable in the water. You learn basic mechanics on bicycles and boats. You learn basic agriculture so you can feed yourself. A lot of physical skills, obviously, to survive. And then it's a progression from there to Southeast Asia, where you focus more on interpersonal skills. So you learn hospitality by working and living in a hotel. And it's international hospitality too. So etiquette in a lot of different places are, it's going to be different. So you're learning international etiquette. You learn culinary arts because cooking for other people is a huge part of the human experience. And from there, it's a progression to India, where you go to film school in Bollywood. And the thought is really that you should be able to present your own ideas and really get your thoughts out to other people in a really constructive way. So you find a topic that you care about, and you write and film and direct and edit everything around your own documentary. And then Chandler right now is saying he's on his break from Winterline Gap Year right now, and he's looking forward to what's coming up. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit and tell him what he's about to go in for. But so he just finished his first trimester in the US and Costa Rica and Panama. But from film school, then it goes to a deeper dive, and Chandler and a lot of other students on our program will sort of be checking things off as they go and say, well, I thought I might be interested in the medical field or business or engineering, but I tried it out in reality outside of the classroom and what it would look like post-college even. And you get to narrow it in on what you really want to do. And so we want you to really take charge of your education there. And in part of the third trimester, you're actually going to do an independent study on a topic of your choice. So you submit your own proposal, which includes, again, a budget. So you need to know personal finance, and you need to know your own safety and risk management plan too, so you know what you're up against. And I mean, I could talk about this for 9 months because it's a huge program and there's a lot to it. But that was our initial big marquee program, and it's incredible. And I'm sure Chandler has a lot to say about it too. But we now offer semester programs too. And we have a semester version of the Global Skills Program. And then we also have a program that focuses on international business and entrepreneurship. We have a program called Work in the Wild, Work and Live in the Wild. And Lillian, I'm sure, and I both get asked pretty frequently, like, how the heck did you get your job? Because it is a pretty unique thing that we do. And that program really gives you a lot of the skills and certifications that places like Minerva and Winterline and other experiential education places look for in their employees. We also have a program called Skills for a Green Future, which is around sustainable energy. And then we have health, medicine, and wellness, and ocean exploration. And then our summer programs, again, are pretty broad. We have a global gastronomy program, which is around culinary arts. And we have summer business intensives that are 3 and 6 weeks long, and a program called digital storytelling. So if you're interested in communication, you do everything from like learning how to pilot drones to virtual reality to film and everything else. So those are some of our options, but everything we do is skills-based. Here's a quick testimonial from one of our alum, Molly. She says, for those of you who are on your phone and you can't see it, every day is extraordinary. Every day I'm doing something I've never done before, and that's how I hope to live the rest of my life. So that is a perfect example of the type of student we want, is someone who is totally up for a new experience and really is excited to just learn as much as possible. And that may not be in a classroom. A lot of our students haven't really found that energy yet because kindergarten through 12th grade, I mean, you're sitting at a desk in a classroom with other students, and that's your education. So we want to show students that there are other ways to be educated. We've talked a lot about skills, but these are some samplings of our skills. We have sewing with fair sew, and you actually source your own materials to make your garments. And so you do fashion design, film, and culinary arts, and mechanics, and robotics. And that is Butler School in the top middle. You actually go to Butler School and you learn all of the different etiquette and everything you need to do to be very proper in different parts of the world. So it's a good way to show yourself off and really present yourself in any situation. And a lot of people ask, how the heck are we doing this? We aren't going to pretend to be the best at every single skill in the world. So we partner with the organizations that are. For example, when we're talking about car mechanics and everything, we work with BMW in Germany because they are the best. And when we are doing outdoor survival skills, that's with NOLS, the National Outdoor Leadership School. So we partner with the organizations that may not teach skills best, but they perform them the best. So we have actually gotten our students into organizations that normally a student wouldn't be able to work with. Another quick testimonial. This guy is Cole. He was on our program last year. He says, I am going to be the best husband possible. I can do Thai massage, make beds, know how to be a butler, sew a button on an iron shirt. So he clearly has one goal in that. But there are obviously a lot of different directions you can take our skills. And even if you're learning business skills like negotiation, in negotiating your own jobs and salaries and things like that, or even in classes of I should get this grade or whatever, there are skills that are transferable to many parts of your life. This is one last pitch. We have a program starting January 15th. So if any of you are looking for a gap semester or any time starting January 15th and then going through the spring, our International Business and Entrepreneurship Program is incredible. You do a startup boot camp where you learn every side of business, from finance to marketing to HR and everything in between. And throughout the program, while you're traveling to Boston and Singapore and Mumbai and Cambodia and Austin, Texas, you're learning all sides of international business, and you're actually paired up in the very beginning with a one-on-one mentorship with a proven business person, whether they're an entrepreneur or in angel investing, any side of it. And that person is your mentor for the duration. So even after the program, if you have ideas and you want to bounce them around, they're a great resource for you. And then we do end in Austin, Texas, because you go to the South by Southwest Festival, which is incredible. And there's actually an innovation conference at the festival where business leaders from all over the world are going to be there. And by the time you're there, you're going to have a business plan that's totally done, and you are going to be able to shop it around at the festival and potentially get investors or partners for your business. So again, Deadline is coming up pretty fast. It's right at New Year's. But if anyone has any questions about it, please do reach out to me. And as we were planning this webinar, the more Winterline learned about Minerva, the more we realized how awesome they are and how much we have in common too. So we figured that anyone who does join us on this webinar would also, just based on their interest in Minerva, have a pretty good foundation to be on a Winterline program as well. So for those of you watching, we have a promo code EXPLORE17, and in your application for any of our programs, if you enter that promo code, we have set aside some scholarship funds for you guys in particular. So write that down and use it. And then this is just our contact info. And Lillian, if you want to get your slides ready.
Great.
That's a great question from Dahlia. If you already applied, now that I know you're here, I'm going to apply that to your application. So thanks for bringing that up.
Great. Well, do you have an age limit, Ben? I'm going to consider taking.
Yeah, great question. So our programs that are set right now are 18 to 22 years old.
I missed the window a little bit.
The business program in particular, though, is 18 to 27. So just
right on the cusp there. Squeeze myself in. Well, great. As Ben said, a lot of what Minerva is built on is really kind of that exposure for students to be thinking about what they want to do next, with intentionally giving them really the opportunity to build skills that they're going to need no matter what they go into. And so we like to think of Minerva as really being a top-tier institution that was built, in 2012, 2013, instead of being built, 375 years ago, when most top institutions were created with kind of different goals, different resources in mind. And so our kind of new approach combines four things. First is the global experience, which is an immediate overlap with a lot of the exciting places Ben was talking about. Making sure our students are getting a practical knowledge base, making sure that our students are actively involved in their learning process instead of just kind of being a recipient of, the same material the professors taught for, multiple decades, frantically writing it down. Which is actually one of the hardest things about these webinars for us, is that we kind of preach to a type of learning that we don't always love to do. And I know Ben feels similarly, but it's a great way to share information quickly. And the last thing is making sure that we're accessible to students coming from wherever they are in the world, regardless of religious background, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic background. So first, Ben was outlining all of the amazing places that their programs get to go. And similarly, Minerva is different from a traditional university in that our students don't stay in one place for 4 years, but instead will get to see the world over their 4 years. So our first year students that are, that 1 day away from finishing their freshman semester here in San Francisco, and then they'll actually come back here for the second part of their freshman year as well. But then starting in their sophomore year, every semester, they'll be in a new city. So our students that are sophomores in Berlin right now are not just finishing finals, they're also packing and preparing to put away their winter coats and their hat and mittens because they are off to Buenos Aires, where it is summertime. So they are very excited about the life quality and weather upgrade. They loved Berlin when they moved in August, but have quickly soured on the cold. Then they'll do their junior year in Seoul and Hyderabad, which is in southern India, and then they'll finish up in London and Taipei. And, those are all really cool sounding places, but the intention behind them was to really give students the opportunity to see different places, cities that are in different areas of development in terms of being a global power for a long time, kind of being a new emerging market, places of social innovation, places of kind of different mixing pots of other cultures. And so our students find themselves not just taking classes in those places, but getting involved in volunteer opportunities, getting involved in protests, getting involved with the local government. There's not just, we don't have a campus that has a gate or kind of a place away from the rest of the city. Our students are living in residence halls right in downtown areas, exploring cafes, going to libraries with everyone else that's just a young adult in the city. In terms of who our students are, about 80% of them come from outside of the United States, so a slightly inverted demographic of what you see at most institutions in the US, where it's about 80% from the US and 20% if you're lucky from outside. And so we're really thrilled with the geographical diversity. In our class of 160 first-year students, there's over 50 countries represented. And academically, a lot of our students have done the IB diploma program, mostly because that is a way during the kind of high school years to start thinking globally. But we have students that come from public schools, private schools, homeschooled, religious schools, students that have done gap years, students that are wanting to do gap years, students that have done active military service. So if you are interested in Minerva, regardless of kind of your age and your background, as long as you don't have another undergraduate degree, we're happy to read your application. And we've had a couple parents actually threaten their students that they were also going to apply because they didn't have undergraduate degrees. So far, none of them have come through on that, but I'm waiting for the day. It could happen. In terms of creating our curriculum, we really do have a focus on kind of skills and what we call kind of habits of the mind. And so we want our students to kind of, regardless of what situation they go into, to be able to pull out a whole toolkit of analytical skills and techniques to be able to communicate with others effectively, regardless of whether they have a shared cultural background or even maybe in some cases a shared language. And so our freshman year, we focus on really developing 120 skills. And then your sophomore through senior year, you have a major like you would at other schools. You have the opportunity to do a capstone project. So for 2 years during your junior and senior year, work on kind of creating your own original work or a business plan, maybe building off the one that you did during some time at Winterline. Thinking about how to contribute something to the greater world. So when you graduate, you haven't just grown as a person, but you're ready to kind of give something back and kind of really announce yourself as a global citizen. The other big difference about Minerva is that we don't have a traditional classroom space. We do hands-on learning on Fridays when students are out in the city, but even when we're in classes, our students are taking them on an online platform. It's called the Active Learning Forum, and it allows us to really create intimate learning environments and to kind of minimize the feedback gap that is often found at higher education schools and kind of classroom environments where you might get graded reports, once a semester or twice a semester, but you don't really know how well you're doing, which was a rude awakening for me my freshman year of biology class, but that's a story for a different time. But this way, at the end of every class, the faculty actually goes back through and provides actionable qualitative feedback, as well as kind of a quantitative grade on how you're doing with, recognizing biases in data, how you're doing on parsimony, which would have been a tough grade for me, I think, to do super well on, a little long-winded. And as you can see from the slide, you can see everyone at all times. So there's no back of the room to hide in. All the classes are seminar style, so there's no lecture component. So, from the first minute of class to the end of class, it's debates, discussions, simulations. And so students find it to be very rigorous and demanding, but also that they're really getting to know their faculty and their classmates that they're living with and also learning with, because so much of it is bringing in personal stories, your own opinions to every class. I mentioned that we also have outside of the classroom learning, and so on Fridays our students will go and meet with businesses, local nonprofits. There's a picture here on the right of people going to the California Academy of Sciences, and that's really one of our ways of making sure our students aren't just living in a bubble in these different cities, but getting out and then practicing their skills in the real world environments. And then lastly, I just want to talk very briefly about kind of our tuition and our application process. Our tuition is about $12,000 a year when you factor in room, board, needing a coat or flip-flops, depending on what location you're going to be in. We're at about $30,000 a year, which is about half of what a lot of other top schools cost. We are need blind for everyone, regardless of where your passport is, and about 78% of our students are on financial aid right now. In our admissions process, we've tried to take out anything that might kind of bias students for having different financial backgrounds or being from a different country. And so we don't take the SAT or ACT or the TOEFL. Instead, we have a series of kind of challenges you'll do for us, as well as looking at your transcript and then having you tell us 5 to 6 things that you're proud of that you did during high school. And with that, I think we can open it up to questions.
Awesome.
So whirlwind experience.
Actually, I'm realizing I didn't really talk too much about our, oh, that's a good question from Chandler. What if you were homeschooled and don't have a transcript?
Yeah, so we have a couple of homeschool students that have applied this cycle, and we also have a student who's actually currently in his freshman year here from Kansas who was homeschooled. We would ask for kind of a sense of whatever curriculum you're using or curriculum model. If your family has come up with something and there isn't kind of an established curriculum you're using, there's space for that in the application for you to tell us kind of what pedagogy are you using, how are you being evaluated, to make sure that, obviously as a homeschool student, you still have to show your state that you're, making some progress towards learning objectives, and we will take that. I will warn you, we will probably have more questions for you about your academic rigor and what you've been challenging yourself with than a student who can give us a transcript, but we also will probably rely heavily on what you've learned during your Winterline gap year, so that'll be a nice kind of complementary experience to your homeschooling time.
Awesome.
Ben, you were going to talk about...
I graduated at 15 and started a college semester at 17. Wow.
There you go. Yeah. So you're going to have a busy part of the application submitting all your academic background, because we'll want some records from when you were homeschooled. We'll definitely want your college semester. And then obviously Winterline isn't giving you a transcript or anything, but you'll probably want to speak to that in your section of things you're proud of. But we get students that have, been in the same school since they were in preschool. We have students that have done high school in a new place every year of their 4 years. We have students that, have graduated early and have been on a gap year. So it'll be tough to stump me, Chandler, but you're doing a pretty good job.
And Chandler, we will give you our curriculum too, so you can present that.
Yeah.
And actually, we have had students present that to their colleges in the past. And Lillian, you said that for a gap year, you won't accept outside credit?
Yeah, we haven't historically. We're always interested in looking at the curriculums, and I think at some point as gap year programs, really develop and can prove what, the same way we're asking our students to prove what they're learning here, I think we'll probably be open to it, but we haven't seen a program yet do it. You guys are one of the many ways you guys are a standout program.
Yep, exactly. And that's why what we'll do is give you our curriculum, and then we've had students present it to their college when they get on campus. They bring it to the registrar, and they have given credit for it.
That's awesome.
So that's a loophole to get into Minerva. All right. As far as our application process goes at Winterline, the application is all on the website. It's pretty straightforward. It sounds like Dahlia's already applied. Actually, I think I've seen her name around. Yeah, the application's all online. You can do it in one sitting if you want. You can come back to it, but it does have a few short essay questions. And then we will set up a interview. Typically, it's on Skype just because we're all over the place. And it takes half hour, 45 minutes. But pretty straightforward questions. We just want to make sure that we are a good fit for you, and vice versa. And then we also do require a recommendation, and it's usually a guidance counselor or an advisor or a teacher. And for our financial aid, we do offer need-based, merit-based, and then we also have work-study scholarships. One of them is a photography scholarship. So if you're a really good photographer, submit a portfolio, and then if you get the scholarship, as long as you're shooting while you're on the program, that's a huge chunk off of the tuition cost. And then that also goes for journalism. So if you're a good writer and you submit some writing samples, then as long as you are writing and blogging on the program, then that's a scholarship too. Any other questions? If not, if not, Lillian and I both love talking about this stuff, obviously. So we are both available, and I'm going to put in my email address, and let's see.
Chandler, you can just use my email that I typed in probably while you were typing your question. Great.
And the question is the letter of recommendation due when I have my interview? Depending, like if you are right up against the deadline for the following semester, which we definitely try to avoid, then it's fine. But if you let us know that it's coming in and who it's coming from, then obviously it would be a conditional offer upon how your recommendation comes in. Any other questions on this Thursday evening?
Thursday evenings are Friday evenings at Minerva, so I understand the maybe low energy. I really appreciate everyone taking the time, but yeah, since they don't have classes, students don't have classes on Fridays. Thursday night is like the big got through the week, and then Fridays they go out into the city for the co-curriculars, and then it seems like by midday Saturday there's the realization that Monday is coming and it's back to homework. Friday mornings.
Friday mornings.
Friday morning.
Chandler had another question for you.
Great, yeah. So the degree from Minerva is a Bachelor's of Arts or a Bachelor's of Science. We offer 5 majors here. Since we are a liberal arts school, we don't ask you to declare your intended major when you apply, and students have till the kind of end of their freshman year to indicate their intended major. Our sophomores are our first sophomores we've ever had, so when they picked their majors last spring, we were not sure how many of them would stick with it. We had over half the class indicated they wanted to be a double major, which fits in really well with our curricular model, so that was fine, but we just weren't sure what to expect. And so now they're about halfway through their sophomore year. Definitely some students that were double majoring have decided they only like one of their majors. We have some students that are doing one that have, were taking electives and have fallen in love with classes in a different major, and they're going to add that. So there's a lot of flexibility, but ultimately you'll graduate with an accredited degree from the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, which is the same accrediting board that does kind of all of the universities and colleges on the West Coast. With a Bachelor's of Arts or Bachelor's of Science. The majors, I can add the link in the chat, Chandler, but I also know all 5 of them off the top of my head. And they are business, natural sciences, social sciences, arts and humanities, and computational sciences. And you'll notice that they're kind of the majors at like the discipline level. So if you're interested in chemistry, you'll notice that I did not say chemistry, but I said natural sciences. And our hope with that is that it gives students the flexibility to really see the discipline at the biggest level, and then to dig deep into it during their junior and senior year. So at the end of your sophomore year, you'll actually decide on a concentration within your major. And there are 6 concentrations within each major. So there are kind of 30 things when you break it all down that you really kind of dig deep and specialize in. But we think as an institution, too often students come in, maybe have already indicated a major, and then they're not necessarily as open as they could be to seeing new things. And then from a faculty side, we have found, and our faculty who have come to Minerva has also reflected on this often, is that when you have like, I'm in the physics department and you have I'm in the chemistry department, you might not be overlapping and interacting the way that you could if you really, bringing your research to the best of its abilities, or, finding interlapping opportunities for your students. And so we found that by breaking up the majors this way and having students pick their concentrations as late as they do, that students are really getting that breadth before they get the depth, and are really kind of performing at a higher level because of it. At least that's our hope. We will have a better sense next year when our students pick their concentrations and start working on their capstone projects. But we have pretty equal distribution over all 5 majors currently, and we think a lot of that is because we don't have students pick ahead of time, and because the freshman year is so interdisciplinary that a lot of students who may have thought themselves as just people who enjoy writing and don't want to do anything with science have to do a little bit of science that freshman year, and find that maybe high school science and college level science are not exactly the same, and there's pieces of it that they really enjoy. Mm-hmm. And Chandler, I'll throw the focus of the website part in the chat.
What are the rules regarding internships?
Great question. So internships are a large part of kind of the Minerva experience, not surprisingly. And We do encourage our students to have internships. We have found most students are successful when they're doing their internships during the summer because the courses are rigorous here and because there's like a lot going on to really be experiencing the city that you're in. We've had students who have done 10-hour-a-week internships, but they often feel like they're trading off, hanging out in the residence hall and getting that global exposure or going to all of the co-curriculars that Minerva is organizing for them. That being said, we had, a student who did a 20-hour-a-week internship at Uber last year while in San Francisco, and he wouldn't have traded the opportunity to be at Uber while in San Francisco for the world, and now is actually working for Uber in Berlin and is having, really a transformative experience and wants to go into business. So, he knew what he wanted and he's loved it. We do highly work with our students to have the opportunity for internships during the summer and have designed our academic calendar to maximize around that. So we actually have a 4-month summer, which allows most of our students to not just have a basic internship, but to go kind of above and beyond, or to go home for a couple weeks and recharge, or to travel in the city that they're in, the things that they didn't have a chance to do during the term, and then still do, that 12-week internship. We work closely with all our students starting in their freshman year, kind of one-on-one to think about what's the right placement for a student. And I think we ended up with about 82% of our students last year had an internship placement after their freshman year, so full-time research or full-time internship. And they were, at Uber, they were at Apple, they were at Amazon, they were at Caltech, they were in China at VC firms, they were going back, they'd gotten VC funding for their own company and they were up and running that. So lots of variety. We also had students, went and worked at the YMCA pool because that's what they wanted to do this summer. So we're not prescriptive about what you do, but you will have a conversation with someone, usually Jesse or Ann in the professional development agency, about what you're thinking for the summer and how we can help you. It sounds like you are lining up your own incredible opportunity at Pixar, which is great. And if you, I know I have a couple friends who work in Pixar in the Berkeley East Bay area, and it seems like a very cool place to be. And you ended up, getting into Minerva and landing the internship. It's certainly possible to do both during the term, but it would take definitely some dedication to time management and, using every moment you have. But again, having done the Winterline program, I have the utmost confidence that you've developed some really strong skills in that area.
Yeah, Chandler, I want to hear more about that. That sounds sweet.
All my favorite movies are Pixar. They're so good. I don't know how they do it every time. I don't think they can get better, and then they're better.
I know. That's awesome. Any other questions? If not, you guys have our email addresses, and we can reach out as well. But thank you all so much for joining us. We've had a good time and hope to do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening or your Friday. And yeah, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. You have both of our emails. And yeah, keep thinking about how you'll see the world. Ben and I both took gap years before our college experiences to do some traveling, and I think if we could go back and do some more, we would be very happy to do so. So take advantage of the opportunity.
Yep. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.